Chapter 8. Reckoning with his fate and living out faith. While Katie and Nick were trying to find their way into a balanced relationship, Becca was trying to find a way to forgive herself for all the animosity she had ever bestowed upon Scotty. She sat by his sleeping body in recovery in silent prayer. The best hope before that surgery was that Scotty's cancer was at stage 3, which could give him a treatment option of a possible 5-year survival rate. However, the best estimate the doctors told Becca was that most likely, he was in stage 4 cancer. The surgery would determine IVA or 4B. With some form of chemoradiation therapy, it would give Scotty less than 1-year survival rate. As feared, the surgery revealed that the cancer had metastasized to other regions, invading blood vessels and other organs. Becca's worst fear was coming to pass, and she had to call Matthew to give him the news. She was finding it very difficult to talk in a sensible tone, and she was the one Scotty had asked to inform him after the surgery. Scotty could read Becca like a book, and instead of doctors giving Scotty some medical mumbo-jumbo, as he called it, Becca would be straight with him. Matthew left work and headed for UK Markey Cancer Centre to support Becca and Scotty. When Scotty awoke, both Becca and Matthew were in the recovery room. He was heavily sedated, so he was told that pathological tests were being done. Becca and Matthew opted to wait to tell Scotty the next day. While she waited and he slept, she knelt down in the corner and prayed. Lord, how could I have been so awful all those years, when a gem of a man was in Katie's and our lives? Please, help me do right by him. Keep me strong so I can be strong for him and my Matthew. I'm so sorry. Help Scotty to forgive me and know how much I truly love and appreciate him, in Jesus' name. She kept trying to keep her emotions in balance and keep her composure, knowing that Scotty would wake up any moment. If he saw her falling apart, he would know the news was devastating. She wanted to be his hero now, because he was everyone else's. She did not want to alarm him. She wanted to give him a reason to fight for his life. She wanted him to have some sort of hope and the will to live. The next morning, Becca, who had been crying all night, tried to hide her swollen eyes, along with the tiny, reddened vessels in her face. She had taken a cool washcloth and cool tea bags on her eyes to try to hide the evidence of her emotional turmoil. Matthew had also spent the night, having called in Marjorie, his mother, to fly in early to help take care of the children. Matthew left the room to get some coffee for him and Becca. When Scotty awoke, he turned and saw Becca at his side, who gave him a consolatory smile. Becca, you're lousy at hiding it. I can see in your face, the news is not good, Scotty said. Matthew has gone for some coffee for us, he'll be back in a few moments. Well crap, if Matthew spent the night, that pretty much says it all. Becca, it's stage 4, isn't it? Yes, Scotty, pathology will determine stage IVA or IVB. If it is IVA with chemoradiation, you could live up to 2 more years, or even more. Yes, and how will that quality of life be? I'll be pumped full of drugs just to stick it out a few months longer, and agonize my Katie bear, that much longer. Becca nodded. Raise my bed, please. Becca picked up the remote and raised the head of his bed slowly. You okay? Dizzy? Scotty shook his head as he put his fists down to raise his body. Don't, let me help you. She lowered the rails and put her arms under his armpit to hoist him. You ready? He nodded. She put everything she had into helping his 180-pound body raise and sit up comfortably. Do you mind if I check your sutures? What, and you didn't see me naked in the OR? She chuckled uncomfortably. Seriously, Becca, you're a nurse, I can handle it. He gave her a welcoming and appreciative smile. She lowered his sheet, patted his abdomen, and checked for any oozing or extra bleeding. He grunted when she pushed down on his side. Sorry. Don't worry, thanks, he said as she raised her head and put her hand on his forehead. If we tell Katie, you know what will happen, don't you? Becca nodded. She'll come running home to you, and she won't leave your side. That's right, Becca, and she needs to bond with that stupid star. He'll help her cope. She'll fall in love if she hasn't already, and that love will carry her. I can't see prolonging the agony on anyone. Becca broke down and wept bitter mournful tears. Scotty held out his arms. She gently went in to hug and cry into his shoulders. Scotty's tears flowed freely that day, also. Matthew entered the room and found both of them in deep rhythmic sobs. He put his hand on the top of Becca's back, as she wept over the man that she antagonized for so long. As Becca wept into his shoulders, she poured out her heart and her angst for all the animosity she had ever spilled out on him over the years. Scotty, I'm so sorry for all the terrible things I've said or done or thought over the last couple to 3 years. You've always been so good to our Katie and taken such good care of her, and I've been such a snot to you. You're the star in the family, Scotty, and all along I've been too stupid to see that. Can you forgive me, please? Well, no, I don't think so, he said. Becca popped up, shocked at his answer. Come on, Becca, how else am I going to get you to bend over backwards these next couple of weeks to cater to my every need? He gave her a sad, weeping laugh, and she shook her head. She took his hand into hers and held it up. I would do it anyway, you know that. Now, I can stay at the farmhouse, or you can come to the cottage. I think the farmhouse would be best, Becca. We don't want your girls to see you falling apart all week, he said, poking fun at her. It's not funny, Scotty. No, nor is your breaking down all the time, so man up, Becca, he said. She shook her head and chuckled, as both of their eyes filled again with tears. Scott, I'm so sorry. Matthew leaned in for a hug. Don't be sorry for me, Matthew, I'm good. I'm going to see Jesus, and my dad, and Pappy. Like little Katie said, I'll look for your pops, and Lori, for you, but I think I'll avoid that brother of yours, not sure I can be all that charitable toward him. Matthew wept deep tears thinking of them. Damn it, Scotty, Matthew said. Becca popped her head up, twisted her body to see Matthew's face. Scotty's eyes popped open wide, as he laughed. Well, shoot. I should have gotten cancer earlier, now how did that feel, Matthew? Awful, now I feel guilty. I don't understand what the big deal is. Katie says it relieves some of the tension. I don't feel better. Becca and Scotty laughed. When are you going to tell Katie? Becca asked. When she's fatter and crazy in love, that's all there is to it. Do not let on, even to the girls. We'll have to call her today, don't even hint tears, you got it, Becca? Katie can sense crying, she's so tender-hearted. I'm going to take her to Tennessee, after next week, and leave her there. Matthew, you bring down her expedition, a few days later, I'll need some time for a getaway. I'll pack and head to my sister's. She'll take over the care from there. Knowing Katie, if she knew you were leaving, she'd stow away in your trunk, Becca said half laughing and half crying. Matthew nodded. I can do that, for you, Scott. Scotty lowered his head and cried. Matthew took him in his arms. He pulled out of the hug. Matthew, encourage that girl to open her heart to the stupid star. Becca, I don't have to tell you that, now do I? That's not funny, Scotty. I'm not joking. You've always seen that she was better off with him, and I've selfishly held on to her. I should have done it a long time ago. It's time to let go, now, though. Scotty, there's treatments, clinical trials, please don't just lay down and die. We love you, your family. I'll check out my options up there in Boston. Like you said, Matthew, that's the place to go, right? I've contacted my sister. She's going to pick me up at Logan Airport on the 8th, just in time for opening day for the Red Sox, Matthew. She has tickets. You jealous? You betcha, used to love going to Fenway with Pops. Matthew and Scotty looked at each other, reminiscing in each other's mind over the past 5 years. For Matthew, it was the day that he saved Katie's life that Scotty became a permanent brother in his heart. He lowered his head when he felt the sting of tears bringing a tidal wave of tears. Excuse me, he said with his voice breaking. He ran from the room, down the hall and down several flights of stairs. He found a remote courtyard on the bottom floor and slammed out of the glass doors and hit the ground on his knees. He looked up to heaven. God, how many brothers in my life do I have to lose? He dropped his head and wept bitterly. Back up in Scotty's room, Becca watched Scotty and his reaction. He drew in a breath of courage. Go find him, Scotty said to Becca. She took off to comfort her husband, while Scotty lifted his eyes toward heaven. Comfort him, God, and give me the strength to do what I have to do. Matthew came back into the hospital to go back up to Scotty's room, but his grief stopped him in the stairwell. He turned and sat, holding his head in his hands, and wept long rhythmic sobs. Becca found Matthew crying in the stairwell, sitting on a step. She put her arm around him. I'm so sorry, my love. I'm so sorry about all the losses you have had to bear. It's just not fair. If anyone doesn't deserve to mourn again, it's you, darling. He turned to look at guilt in the face of his Becca Joy, the shiver deliverer of his life. I've been a beast to that man. I'm going to work every day of my life to make it up to him. She wept over the guilt in her heart. He took her in his arms. I'm so proud of you, my sweet Becca Joy. He loves you, and he appreciates all that you are doing for him. I'm sure he had forgiven you a long time ago. He's a great man, he said with his voice breaking down. I'm so worried about Katie. You know, Matthew, something tells me that she'll handle it better than we think. What makes you say that? I don't know, instinct maybe. Look, she's in love with Nick, and he's such a strong man. He's going to hold her up and strengthen her. Scotty's right, last time when she lost Michael, she had nothing, no one, and she had lost him in such a treacherous manner. This time, she'll have time to prepare for it. She's not just coming off losing a baby, either. Nick's love will carry her, so won't his family. I'll bet you'll see a side of Katie for Scotty that you've never seen. I just hope he tells her soon. Matthew nodded. They hugged and held each other, strengthening each other so that they could be strength for Scotty. Chapter 9. Beauty is as beauty does.